provide us an opening statement on the eve of Friday's game before we open the floor for questions.
Well, we certainly appreciate, the opportunity to be involved in the Cotton Bowl here. I'd like to thank all the people of the Goodyear Cotton Bowl for all that they've done to create a lot of positive hospitality, even though, we've got circumstances that we all have to deal with. It has worked out very well. Our players seem to be, focused, practicing well, doing the things that they need to do to prepare to, play a good, very, very good, Cincinnati team who certainly competed well all season long and certainly deserves the right to, be in the playoff. And they're very well coached. Their players play hard. They play well together. So this will be a very challenging game for us.
All right, Coach, we'll get to the questions. Our first one will come from Tino Buzinzi. Tino, go ahead.
Good morning, Coach Saban. This is Tino Bovenzi from Spectrum News 1 in Ohio. I wanted to ask you about Coach Fickel and what he's been able to build in Cincinnati. You know a thing or two about building a program into something successful as he's working to do. How impressed are you with what he's been able to do at Cincinnati to get to this point? And I'll have a follow-up for you as well.
Well, I'm extremely impressed. I've always had a lot of respect and admiration for, Luke when he was a defensive coordinator. I think he's done a fantastic job of building a program. And I think, the indication of that, not knowing, sort of the internal parts of it is, when you look at what's happening on the field, the way their players play, the way they compete, the discipline that they have. It's a very structured organization that's creating a lot of value and teaching a lot of people what they need to do to be successful. And, that's something that we always have a tremendous amount of respect and admiration for. They obviously have a lot of really good players, so they've done a good job of, attracting, good talent, which is, always an important part of having a good team. But those good players are also being developed in a very positive way to help them be successful.
Yeah, of course. And I wanted to ask you about your ties to Ohio. Obviously, it goes back quite a ways. And I want to get to how did that really make you into the coach that you are today? You've had such a long coaching career, but that's kind of where you were. I don't want to say formed as a coach, but if you could.
No, I think you're probably right about that. I played at Kent State. I started my coaching career at Kent State. I always recruited Ohio, mostly Northeast Ohio, Akron, Canton, Youngstown, Cleveland. For years and years and years when I was at Michigan State, coached at Ohio State, coached the Cleveland Browns for 4 years with Bill Belichick. So, there was a time when we lived in Ohio and spent so much time there that we sort of felt like we were more residents of Ohio than we were of West Virginia in terms of where we were from. And certainly professionally, if not true personally, a lot of things that helped me grow and develop as a coach, happened in Ohio with all the experiences that we had. Don James was an instrumental part in getting me started in coaching, and certainly learned a tremendous amount from him and Earl Bruce and Bill Belichick. So the experiences that I had as a coach in Ohio, really helped mold me philosophically into a lot of things that we believe in and that we try to implement in our program.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Aaron Suttles from The Athletic.
Hey, Coach. Aaron Suttles from The Athletic. Given what we saw from the offensive line against Georgia, playing maybe their most consistent game of the year, how have they built on that? And when you got two solid players at one position like Seth and Darian, how difficult is the decision is that to who starts come game time?
Well, I think we, play the player that we feel gives us the best opportunity to win versus the matchup that we have. Some of that, guys have to be physically ready to play in terms of being 100%. That sometimes, plays into it. But there's always difficult decisions to make when it comes to personnel. Everybody wants to play. And I think as a coach, you just try to make the decision based on who you feel will give you the best chance to win, based on, practice, preparation, and, how they've historically performed, as a player. So I think it is a challenge, for our offensive line. It was a challenge for them, in the SEC championship game against a very good front seven. They'll have a very similar challenge in this game. I know that I hear from a lot of the folks out there in the media that, the way to have a chance to beat us is to pressure the quarterback. So in many cases, it's important that the offensive line can do a good job of protecting the quarterback and not allowing that to happen so he does have a chance to operate. And we've been most successful when that's been the case. So this is a very challenging game for them.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Taylor Kaufman.
Good morning, Coach. Taylor Kaufman for CBS 42 out of Birmingham. Over the days since you guys have been here, have you noticed a growing sense of eagerness from your team to play this game? I'm sure they're just chomping at the bit to get out there, especially since they decided collectively to stay pretty isolated this week.
Right. Well, I think, when you have this much time between games, when you start practicing way before Christmas, you're practicing, it seems like the game's a long way off. And then when you really finally arrive at the site, you say, wow, this is for real. It's coming up quickly. We have a regular week to go through. And the goal from a coach's standpoint, from our standpoint, is, to get the players, gaining a sense of urgency, a sense of focus, the closer they get to the game, and not having practiced so much they start getting bored with what they're doing. And I haven't seen that from our team.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Jeff Spiegel from WBMA TV.
Nick, to follow up on what Taylor just asked, how important is it to, stay on task and have a routine when you approach a big game at a big venue like this?
Yeah, well, I think that's the most important thing, keep the main thing, which is the game and how you play in the game. And you determine that by the choices you make, what you choose to ignore, whether it's something you hear in the media, whether it's how you played in the last game, past performance. None of that really matters in this game. It's how you look forward and focus on, what you need to do to be able to execute, do your job, be accountable to your teammates in this particular game. So I think having the right mindset and the right focus is very important to being able to play well.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Mike Rodak from AL.com.
How have players like Jojo Earle and Jaylen Armour-Davis gotten through the week health-wise, and have there been any new issues in terms of availability among players that have cropped up?
I don't think there are any issues among players available. Jaylen Armour-Davis has practiced some. We'll make a game time decision on whether he's able to play, and he'll certainly. He's a mature player, and he knows whether he can go out there and do his job, and Jojo Earle has practiced as well. So, we'll make game time decisions on how much those guys are able to participate.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Nick Kelly from the Tuscaloosa News.
Hey, Nick, over the course of the season, obviously B-Rob got a chance to kind of take the lead back role when he started the year, but how have you seen him grow or really just become a leader for this team?
B-Rob's had an outstanding year. I think that early on, having some success as a runner, having some success as a receiver, becoming a complete player at his position, very good third down back as well, really helped develop his confidence. And as he developed confidence, I think he played with more consistency, and I think he's had an outstanding year. So, we always ask these questions about how guys developed. I mean, the guy was a good player to start with. He got better, and that's the goal for every player. But he's had an outstanding year and been a great teammate and a leader for his group.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Carrie Osep from WVTM TV.
Good morning, Coach. Thanks for taking the time. Carrie Osep out of Birmingham. So you've been in these big games many times, and I can imagine that's one of the benefits as a coach. But are there always there's always new guys experiencing this for the first time. So I'm curious to ask you, what have you learned from this team ahead of this particular playoff that's been different than any other?
I don't know that there's anything different. We try to establish a routine with our players in terms of how we prepare them. And it's up to each individual player as to how focused, how important, what kind of choices and decisions that they want to make relative to how they're going to go out and compete and play in the game. In preparation, how they practice, how they prepare for the game, their focus, all those things, contribute to that. And most of the time when, players have something to prove or something's important to them, that sort of brings out the best in them. But, when you play competitive sports, you not only have to prepare for what you're supposed to do, you have to prepare for how are you going to react when the other guy does something different. Very similar to a boxer. He's prepared to fight, he trained well for the fight, but he also has to respond to taking a punch. He also has to respond to having a bad round. So you also have to have, the mindset that you're going to, stay focused on what happens next, the next play, and your ability to overcome adversity when you play against good teams, because you're not going to win every single down, is very, very important in terms of, your mindset and your ability to stay focused and play with consistency. So you never really know. I can sit here and tell you that I can tell or can't tell. There's been games when I was concerned that we had the right mindset and went out and played well, and there's been games when I thought we were really ready to play and we didn't play very well. So you really never know until you get out there on the field and kind of start the game and see the look in their eye and how focused and how important it is for everybody to maintain intensity.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Justin Williams from The Athletic.
Hey, Coach. While game planning for Cincinnati, what areas do you see this team excelling, maybe compared to other opponents you've prepared for this season?
I don't really compare any team to any other team, so that's not a fair question from that standpoint. But if you're asking me what I think of Cincinnati's team, I think they have an outstanding team. Offensively, the quarterback has done an outstanding job all year. They've got good skill players outside. They've got great balance to run and pass. They've got a good runner. Defensively, they're aggressive. They've got some good edge pass rushers. They got good cover people, especially the corners. They played really well defensively and like fourth in the country in points allowed. So, and it carries all over into special teams. They're sound, solid, well coached. I mean, this is a very good team. And I think as good a team as we played all year.
Coach, our next question is going to come from Johnny Cogden. Johnny, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Johnny Cogden, ABC 3240 in Birmingham. We were talking to Slade Bolden yesterday, and he was telling us that he kind of enjoys being doubted every step throughout his football career. Now that he's a junior, he's experienced, he's played in some big games, how much are you going to rely on him and his just wise sage, kind of in the sense of that he has played in these moments, he knows what to expect, and then you're going to have a lot of young receivers that are going to have to contribute throughout the entire playoff?
Right. Well, Slade has had an outstanding year. He's a very consistent, dependable player in so many ways. He's an outstanding special teams player. He does a really good job for us in the passing game. He plays with toughness. He's a really good competitor. And he's made a lot of key catches for us, throughout the season, and there's no reason to think that he won't have some opportunities to do the same thing in this game.
All right, Coach, your next question is going to come from, give me 1 second here, please. Is a follow-up from Tino Bovinzi.
Hey there again, Coach. I wanted to ask you about Jameson Williams. Obviously, he played at Ohio State, and his transfer story is quite miraculous. How is that his story in itself, along with the transfer portal in general, really kind of changed modern college football into what it is today? And how's that helped you guys really build this Alabama program as well?
Well, I'm not going to get into the transfer portal and the things that it creates. I think there's some things that, resiliency is really important to players having an opportunity to be successful. And I think when players stay in a program for 3 or 4 years and the opportunity that they wanted to create for themselves is not exactly what it turned out that they wanted it to be, the opportunity to go someplace else can be very beneficial. And I think JMO did that. And what was unique about it is we played against them in the championship game and thought he was a really, really good player when we played against him a year ago. And then to see, him wanting to play maybe someplace else where he could be, I guess, in his terms, more featured player was certainly a very good addition, to our team. And we had, only 2 additions to our team. Both of them have been very positive additions and very helpful in creating some of the success that we've had this season.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Ivan Mazel.
Hey, Nick, your comments a couple of minutes ago about never really knowing what you're going to see from your team until what you see the look in their eye. Was this team unusual in terms of not finding its level of consistency until the SEC championship game? I mean, was it unusual in terms of finding the right buttons to push with these guys?
Well, I think, it's always challenging when you come off of winning a championship for, players to have the same hunger to have a sense of urgency to prove something. I think this is sort of, a part of the human condition, that when you have success, you want to be rewarded, you want to relax, you can be a little complacent. So I don't think it was unusual from that standpoint. I think we sort of anticipate that, when we have a successful season and we're coming off a successful season. So, but because we were young, I think that took this team a little longer to maybe respond on a consistent basis like we wanted them to, because that sense of purpose is what keeps people focused on the task at hand. And when you start thinking about a lot of external factors and letting other things, sort of creep into it, you've heard me say before, it's what you choose to ignore sometimes that's just important to being successful is, what you choose to buy into and commit to. So, and I think it just took a while for us to get everybody on the right track.
Was this a test of your patience?
I don't have any patience, so anything that happens is a test of my patience, including sitting in this chair right now.
Well, Coach, we just got a couple more questions and we'll let you get out of that chair. The next question comes from Carl Prather from WAFF.
Hey, Nick, I wanted to ask about Bryce Young. And I know, from a media standpoint, the personal accolades that he's received throughout the year. But what have you seen from him in his progression as a player within your organization and program from when obviously you've recruited him and being in the program and waiting his proverbial turn and now this year being a leader and kind of just continuing to develop as a player throughout the year?
Yeah, well, I think, he's got tremendous command of the offense, really understands the offense, can really help implement, things, whether it's protections, running plays, reading the defense, making fast, instinctive decisions as to where he throws the ball, and he throws it very accurately. And he has made steady progress in that throughout the year. But I think when you play in games like this, you just want him to play his game. You don't want to compete against yourself. You don't have to feel like you got recognized with accolades, that you have something to prove. You don't. You just have to play your game. That's what got you here. That's what got you the recognition. And, Bryce is really solid from, a competitive psychological standpoint in terms of his demeanor. And I think that really helps our team from a poise standpoint, especially offensively.
Coach, your final question is going to come from AP Stedham. AP, go ahead.
AP Stedham, WHEP, AM and FM, Foley, Alabama. Coach, are there any updates on your special teams? And have you observed any uniqueness about the Cincinnati special teams?
Cincinnati's got really good special teams. They pressure a lot of punts. They block more kicks than I think anybody in college football between punts and field goals. They do pressure a lot, so they do challenge you from that standpoint. They've got really good return players to be able to return the ball, kickoff return, punt return. They've got good specialists. Punter is very good. This is a really good team, and they're sound and solid, and they play hard on teams, and that's important. I think, as you go through the season and you lose players, I think where it starts to show up a little bit on your team is because some of your core special teams players become starters, and we try to not play our starters on any more than 2 special teams. It gets a little more challenging from a depth standpoint to be able to continue to create. It creates opportunities for other players, but they have to be able to go in there and execute with less experience than maybe some of the guys you had before.
Well, Coach, thanks for joining us today, and good luck to your team.